Again, you were on Callum Johnson's podcast a few weeks ago. One of my favorite pieces of that pod, Kallaway, was when you talked about your story framework. It's funny because when you consume a Kallaway video, you're just kind of like, you're not even thinking about how strategic it is, right? Like you're just listening and you're captivated and it's very compelling, but you don't realize the science behind it. And I think there is science behind it. And like you laid it out in your story framework. So I don't know if you wanted to reiterate that framework.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of different ways to format short form videos that work, a lot of different hook styles and like layouts, whatever. The one that's worked the most consistent for me that is exactly what I did on the Messi video, which got 30 million views, the Taylor Swift one that got 7 million views. And I'm asking myself why I don't do this on every single one, to be honest. But the framework is kind of 3 buckets. There's the hook bucket, the meat of it bucket, and then the end. But that's what everyone says when they talk about the story arc. So that's not novel. What's novel is like what I put inside of each one. So the way I do the hook on these is I call it, I had a quippy way to say it that I'm not thinking of right now, but it's basically, it's a 3-line system. The first line is what's happening. So it's like the what. So on the Leo Messi video, I was basically like, Leo Messi just changed the sports world forever. So in that one sentence right away, you're basically like, you know it's about Leo Messi, you know it's about sports, you know it's about business. So I'm giving you enough context where if you're not interested in those things, you can churn. But if you are interested in any of those things, you're probably going to stick around for the next line. So the first thing is the what. The next is like a supporting fact that reinforces the what in a way that would shock most people. Usually this is like a metric or a stat or a dollar value. So, and the reason why is because you want to get people wondering why, like what's coming next. You just want one line to go to the next. And so the what right away, instead of saying like, let me tell you something cool. Leo Messi just changed the business sports forever. Immediately you're adding fluff. You don't need that. So it's like Leo Messi just changed the business sports forever. The next line was, he said no to $1.7 billion. When you hear that, you're like, why would he say no to 1.7 billion? Like, I could not fathom saying no to that, right? Every single person's on the edge of their seat. Like, I cannot believe he said no to that. Now, most people, average storytellers, the next line would be a supporting fact of that. So they would say something along the lines of like, and the reason he said no is because this, like they're supporting it to kind of give you the answer. What I found is the way you get real engagement is you then head fake off of where people are leaning. So it's the what, it's the support, and then it's the head fake. So when you're thinking about the 1.7 billion, you're kind of like, I need to know why he said no. And the head fake is by saying, like the reason why he said, like the head fake is basically saying he made a good call by saying no. It's to go with the opposite of what people would think. So I think the third line was like, it was Leo Messi just changed the business sports forever. He said no to 1.7 billion and he made the greatest deal in all of sports or something like that. So basically I've got you leaning to understand why he said no. You're like, I'm going to hear some great reason for why he said no. And then I get you with a head fake to be like, no, actually the reason he said no is because it was the best possible outcome. And you're in a puddle. Like you're so confused and interested and curious about like what is going on. You basically just get hit with this tsunami of questioning. And when you do that, you got them locked. Because if you care about Leo Messi sports, anything, and you care about money, which most people do, you're locked in. So that's the hook piece that works really well. Super quick, 3 sentences, no fluff, bang. Then you get to the meat of the video. This is where most people churn. Like it's almost impossible to get somebody to watch the whole thing unless they're really interested. Your goal in the meat of it is to, the way I said on that podcast, is to do a dance between the context and the conflict. So basically, at this point, I've got you interested. Now I want to give you supporting facts about the story. So, you know, this Saudi league offered him this because of this reason. He was like, oh, this would be good, but it'd be bad for my brand. But then he did something, right? You want to keep introducing these conflicts of like, but here's why he didn't do that. However, there was something else on the table. But then he went and did something else. You start introducing these conflicts and you're kind of dancing between conflict and context all the way down the story. And so we can link this for people. I'll like link the actual script, or you can watch in the Callum video. I think I talked about it more in depth because I pulled it up or something, but you kind of dance down giving all the details. You want supporting facts, you want changing rhythm, you want to punch them with as many numbers and facts as possible, but you got to introduce those conflicts or people will churn. So that's the second part of it. Then the third part, which I think is super overlooked, is the last dab, which is from Hot Ones. It's basically like, I was saying this earlier. When people are watching short form, it's like they're crack addicts. Like their head is so filled with information that the only thing they can remember is like the last 5 seconds. They can't even think about what you've done, what you've said so far. So in the Leo Messi video, which is a minute and a half, the only thing they're remembering by the time they get to the end is like, this is about Leo Messi. You could have given them the secret to life, but all they would remember is like, it's about Leo Messi and what are you going to say next? So I think because of that, you got to hit them with a banger at the end, because if the end is the last thing they remember, the way to get them to share is to make the last line just as good as the first line. And a comp for this is like, if you think about baseball, usually baseball teams have really good batters bat ninth. Well, sometimes it's pitchers, but usually they have a really fast, high on base percentage people bat ninth. Why is that? Because at the end of the order, right after the top of the order comes up, and you want to set the table for the top. So if short form videos loop, you want the last line to be a banger, and then it's going to loop back to the beginning, and you know that hook is a banger. So you basically hit them with all this dopamine of like bang, bang, bang. And so on the Leo Messi video, I said something along the lines of like, the real question is this, is this going to change how people like LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes approach their deals? And I knew people who were like soccer fans or not soccer fans or LeBron fans or not were going to jump in the comments and be like, oh, there's no way you could compare Leo Messi to LeBron. So it was just this like divisive banger at the end. And so, yeah, it really boils down to that. If you just follow that framework and you have like an interesting enough topic, I think you'll hit it. It's gold.
5 minutes to become a better storyteller. That's like a masterclass wedged into 5 minutes. That's such a dope clip. I think you're right. Like when you watch, I love what you said about the last dab. When you watch Inception and you get the ending, I don't want to spoil in case anybody has not seen it. Although there should be like a global sort of like publicly recognized time limit for spoilers. Like if a movie's over 10 years old, you can just talk about it maybe. But either way, like the last dab was so good that you want to rewatch the movie with that in mind. And so a lot of the times you have like a last dab that's so dope that you almost want to rewatch the video knowing that piece of information, knowing what you know now. So I think that's really compelling. But yeah, I love the way that you frame the story. And I almost see that. It's like you inject these techniques into almost every video you do. And so it's like, it's really fun to kind of study. Like sometimes I'll watch a video, I might not be interested in the content necessarily. Like the McDonald's, I wasn't too interested in the content, but I was interested in how you were going to present it. So I watch it to study it, it's just like really, really dope, creator to creator.